What's up guys, welcome back to the Saga Motorsports YouTube channel, and this time for another fast lap with Felix. This time we are at Eagles Canyon Raceway, ECR. You're gonna hear me say this a good amount of times. It's a 2.7 mile track just north of Dallas, a facility that every time we go just keeps on growing and expanding. And this is a lap I did a while back just because we haven't been going there so often. I did it way back in 2021 in a 2016 GT3RS on Hoosiers. If you guys have any additional questions about the facility or the place, just go to their website. It's Eagles Canyon Raceway. So go ahead and check out this lap. Okay, ECR itself is not a track that's super high speed, so it's not going to be like COTA where the speeds are 150s, 160s, 170s depending on the car. So it is a lower consumables track that we really love going to. It has less of a toll on your brakes, less of a toll on your tires. We really like it. Now the surface is not a surface you could put too much brake pedal pressure into, so I think throughout this lap you'll see that like my brake bar is not full, and that's one of those things that you have to learn the threshold brake on that compound a surface. This track likes the heat, like it likes the sun, but obviously when there's too much sun then your car starts suffering, right? Because it just gets too hot. So I think in this session or this time of day, as you can tell, the sun's out, so it was good for the track. And I think it's a morning session because it says 9:44. Sometimes these things, the times aren't correct. It's not going to be 9:44 p.m. that's for sure. So yeah, it's a great facility. We approach turn 1 and there's a right-left section. So you use the left-hand markers to brake. I think I am using, this is all going to be very dependent on what car you're in for when you start braking. But you want to use those left-hand brake markers. Those usually stay there in place. So I think I went to the brakes just past the 3. And one thing to note about turn 1 is that you're cresting and then it's totally downhill. So another reason, yep, I'm using the 3. Another reason you can't give it a max brake pedal pressure. So this next right-hander, they have put a green apron on the inside. So this corner, you want to set yourself up for the next corner just because they're connected corners. So you want to be late on this apex. There's a green apron there on the inside, and it's okay to use that just because the car is super loaded on the left-hand side. So late on this one, you carry the brake so that the nose of the car stays in there. You use the curbing, you use the green, and the car's usually decently settled through there just because all the loads on the left hand side. So here your transition from right to left has to be kind of smooth. I know I made it kind of quick, but you have to be easy with the transition so that the car doesn't get upset. On the brake release, you brake hard, you turn in, and here your brake release has to be super soft. At least in these cars you don't want that snap. That's the only reason I went back to this. So this next corner, it's all going to be getting the weight of the car with the front end. Now, you positioned yourself through the first apex. The second apex, it's hard to see this track out on the right, but through this second apex, as soon as you start going to throttle, you want to make sure to maintain that throttle and commit to throttle. So use all the track. As you can see, I would have probably stayed a little bit further right, or maybe I was a little bit hesitant on the throttle. That's just because there was a car in front of me. But this car, this Corvette, whoever you are, thank you. You gave me an amazing point by. So I go around this Corvette. I know he's going slow enough to where I can move back to the racing line. Now here again, it's uphill, then I think it flattens and then it goes away from you. So all this elevation stuff is what really adds character to this track. This track, you look at it on a map and you can kind of think like, this track looks completely the same, or like all these corners are the same, and you'd be mistaken. Just elevation adds so much character, and we just love this freaking track. So here, you brake left, use this curbing as a reference. Do not use the cone. I mean, this cone will probably stay there, but you can use this cone as a reference, or a certain car length into this rumble strip as a turn in. So drag the brake, and here the reason I'm dragging the brake deep is to get the front end, and I want to be super soft on that release. These two next sections of corners right here, as you can see on the track map, you want to and are able to do with one single steering input. So if you see this line here, and on previous videos as well, if you see this line here, this is actually where my steering position is. So you see me keep that steering position, I add a little bit, and then pretty sure it stays right there around the 2 on the tack, which is basically 9 p.m. And here I am just playing with throttle. Now this car, we have a ton of development through the car, so I had a lot of confidence in this car playing with throttle. You're going to see that continuously throughout this lap, where I'm just playing with throttle and I'm trying to see where the balance of the car is. So you let the car go wide. I wouldn't recommend you getting to that rumble on the right, just because if you do get to that rumble, it is going to upset that car. I think when we went there for this occasion, they went up. So the rumble strip, what I'm talking about is the curbing. It went up and then it flattened. So you had grip on the upside, or you could like have the car lean into the angled section. But as soon as you go over to the flat section, the car would just get super upset. It would kind of get sucked in, and we saw that so many times. So get close to it just enough to open up the next corner here. Continue to play with throttle. Here you do want the car to move all the way right, because that'll make you open up this section here as much as possible. So wide entry, wide exit. It's the biggest arc, and it will provide you with the best flow through this section. Here, this one's kind of tricky because there's no markers around you. This has to be a by feel. So what I like to do here is I like to move over. I think I have 2 car widths on my right side, or a car width and a half, and then I have half a car on my left. I see people moving all the way to the left-hand side of this section of the track, and next thing you know, they miss this right-hand section. So as this right-hand section is approaching, you kind of have to turn in a little bit earlier than you think. Not turn in early, what I'm thinking is turn in before you see it, because then the track falls away from you. So by the track falling away from you, you lose that front end. So you kind of have to overpoint, if that makes sense. So, or over rotate as you turn the car in, because then the car is gonna just push to the outside because it's losing that front end on the way down. Here you want to be late as well, and down this hill you want to grab throttle. The car can take it. A lot of people coast through this section, and there's a lot of lap time to be gained just in that burst of throttle on the way down. So here, move all the way left, and this section, it's it goes down, then it goes back up. So I started braking as I was going down. I didn't have all the brake pedal pressure in it. So I didn't have all the brake pedal pressure in it initially, but then as I'm cresting, I added just a tad more, and then I start releasing. Now what you need to learn here, or what you need to understand, is that it goes down and then it goes up. On the way up, obviously the brake pressure becomes more effective, and the car, by gravity, just having to climb a hill, is slowing down. So a lot of people, they stay left, they brake, and then they turn the car, and now they're on throttle, and the car just gets pushy on the way out. So you move left. What I do is I move left, brake on the way down, carry the brake, and then carry a little bit of the brake on the way up. And you can be a little bit early here. The reason you can be a bit early is because the car is going to keep the front end on the way out because it's uphill. Now the track out here, the next track out, super blind. I'll let you see it. So the car keeps the front end. As you saw, it was a bit early, but the car does keep the front end. This is blind. You roll throttle, you use all that section on the left. We do see plenty of people go off on the left hand side, or they put a wheel off and then they keep the wheel in it, and then the car ends up hooking to the inside. If you end up going past that curbing section and into the dirt, just make sure to straighten the wheel out, because you have a wheel like this. You straighten the wheel out and then do a little bit of an off-road excursion. That's okay, and bring it back safely. So the next section is a right-left sweeper. There is no, at least for our cars, maybe because it has a little bit of aero, there's no braking into it. So I turn the car in, I get the front end just by releasing off the throttle. And on this first right hand curbing, you want to be mid to late. Now, initially I was turning in just by lifting, grabbing the throttle, slight throttle into the curbing, and I was braking in between them. Now, after speaking to a few friends, they said that there is no brake needed in between these two corners. Now, if you're in a different car, I wouldn't say just do it the first time, but mid to late on this one. And here you retreat on that throttle again to get that front end. And I think if you see there, I grabbed like just a dab of brake, just my foot's, so I drive 2 feet, but my foot's just there, just in case. So and also gives me confidence, right? Like if just grabbing a little bit of brake. Sometimes if you're stuck in that moment or in a section where you're like, man, I almost need no brake, but I don't just want to give it up completely. Just move your foot over, dab a little bit into it, and it'll just give you the confidence that you're ready in case the car has a big upset through here. So this is the trickiest corner, I would say, at this track. Well, one of the trickiest. I just thought of the really trickiest one, because on entry to this section, right, that first right-hander, your car, you're going above 100 miles an hour. So the car, yeah, here, so we're going right at 100. So the car is at some aerodynamic. But then when you get to the later section of this left-hand curbing, it right here. So this all, I think once you go under 80, under 90, this is all purely mechanical. Or through this section, you're simply losing aero because you are losing 5, 10, 15 mile an hour. So this left-hand section is kind of dicey, and the car just wants to go straight off the end. Here, you're always going to find yourself braking a little bit with wheel in it. But the car will be settled enough to where you don't have to hook it. So people, they'll usually do the right-hander and then stay right instead of staying mid-track here. So instead of staying mid-track here, people will move all the way right and kind of rim shot or try to square the next one. But as you can see here, I square it off, but at the latest section possible. And I think that's where the lap time is. This next section, another little section. So like I said, you look at it on this map and you're like, man, all these corners are kind of just the same, connected, but it's such a fun little facility. You need to try it. So this next section, this left-hander, you want to be super late just because it connects to another corner that connects to another corner. So it's a complex of corners. Late on the first one, late on the second one, and then the last one you could be mid to late. So here, I like to be late here, and this for me is all on throttle. I'm getting the front end to move, I'm feeling the car, and it's all on the throttle. Throttle here, turn the car in. Here, sometimes the graze of the brake will do the same, but on this car, on these tires, the car just felt like big throttle, big release, was doing okay for me. And if you can see here, I am late, and I am not letting the car get past half track. I am right at half track just because I want to open up the next corner. Here, and you're gonna see on this one as well, I am mid to late, so ideally I'd be a little bit later to that, but this still gives me enough for this left-hand sweeper. This next left-hand sweeper is super important because it leads on to a decent size straightaway. I think here I'm going to keep a little bit of right wheel in it before I transition it, just to open the next corner. Yep. And here, the reason you see me playing on that throttle is just to see the balance of the car, what the car is doing, what the car wants, how the front end, if the front end's working, if the rear's just on edge. And here you are going 76 mile an hour. You want to apply a decent amount of throttle on the way out, and there is this track out curbing rumble. Use that as a buffer. Don't try to put yourself there every single time, just because eventually it won't go well. As you can see right here, this section, it goes up and then it goes flat. I do think they have made some changes to the curbing, but back then it was steep, flat. And then I think this section here is also grooved, so not good for grip. So coming down the back straight, and this is where I want to bring up the brake pedal pressure. So I think I'm using the 4 or just past the 4 as a brake marker. Okay, so here I do go to a decent pedal, but whenever you see the bar kind of bounce up like that and then it gets solid, that means that I went past threshold, or I went into ABS. Now these cars kind of, if you have it, maybe use it, but in my opinion, it's best not to exploit it. So this next left-hander, as you can see, you can't see anything. You just see this left-hand section of the track. You don't know what's on the other side. So you want to be mid to late here. The car, I'm getting it to turn because I still have a really good amount of brake pedal here. So still have brakes. Yep, as soon as I get to that apex, I start rolling throttle. Now you see some section of track. The next section is blind. So here you want to square the next one. So the next section is blind. You move all the way left. Now you can see where you're going, right? But you still can't see the next apex that's right here. But you do it once, it shouldn't be blind the next time, right? At least you should have an idea where you are. So move as left as possible, and now look for that right hand apex. Now here, the front end is gonna go away from you because you're going downhill, and as you're going uphill again, see how it goes back uphill here? You're gonna gain that front end again. This line, I was not doing initially, and I followed a Boxster that was super quick, a momentum car. And I know I'm maybe not in a momentum car, but I followed this momentum car and I'm like, he is flying through here. Let me try this. So this is what developed. So get to that apex on the left, still tad bit late on that left-hand apex. And then you let the car go all the way left. So there was still a little bit of wiggle room there, but not much, which just means I could have grabbed probably a little bit more throttle on the way down, but there's still very little left on the right hand side. The next one, it's 2 left-hand corners, as we can see here. So if you pay attention to this looks similar to this, but they have different elevation, which is going to provide the car with different attitudes. So here I am trying to square up this corner, square up the corner, not square up with the corner, square up the corner with the curbing. And I think I was using the curbing, or as the curbing finished to turn in here. So the track is flat, and as you're approaching that first apex, it really falls off. So every time I go through there, I just have a snap of the car, and that just means that if I have a snap, that means I should have probably broke a little bit earlier and carried a little bit less entry speed, or maybe drug a little bit less trail brake into it. But in my opinion, if you know the car is going to become oversteery there, and the front end, at least you have it biting with the brake, you can use that rotation of the rear axle to better point the car down the hill. So here we are. So I think you can probably see it. So here I'm grabbing a little bit of brake, and I think that's just because the car is kind of wanting to get loose, but I'm still committed on the throttle. So late here, let the car go all the way right, just to the edge of those curbing on the right, that candy cane. And then that sets you up for this next left-hander. That next left-hander, I was always teasing with how much I could use. I think one time I went to the other side and even the car was still settled, but I mean, as we've seen throughout the years, a cone can damage your vehicle, especially right here where we're going 70 miles an hour. We've seen them tear up the sides of cars. So if the cone wasn't there, I guarantee I would be using more. So here, entry, mid to late, let that car track out. And if you see, like I put the steering in the car and the rest is just done with the pedals. Here, let the car, sometimes here it feels like you're gonna go off the end to the right, and that's okay. That curbing's there. I've been on the other side of this curbing. It's not great because there's just dirt, but like I said, use a little bit of that curbing and it kind of catches a car because it's just at an angle. So here, the next one, it's a right-hand sweeper. As you will see right here on the map, it's a right-hand sweeper that goes up. So this, I think it's a bit off camber. Initially, I would hug the whole thing on the way up, but then I started doing this, which was displacing like a quarter to a half a car on entry. And as I was going up, I was just grabbing throttle, letting the car squeeze right, and then letting the car squeeze left. Now the track out on this next section is completely blind. I think this line has to do with the car that I'm in. I had earlier this year, we took a GT3RS there that the front end was just not there, and I was not confident on displacing this right-hand sweeper by half a car because I could never get that front end back unless I was going super slow. So in this car, I displaced it by half a quarter car. Yep, let it kind of go wide a little bit, and then started tucking it in. Here, I was using the end of the curbing as a gauge, and like I said, you cannot see where the track out is, but I guarantee it's somewhere on this side. So here you crest, you finally see the start of the curbing here, and I guess to consider, right, the camera is super high up, but it is about the height. So this is the camera right here, and it is about the height of the eyes of the driver. So it's you're basically seeing what I'm seeing in the car. So here, let the car track out, and it comes to you super quick. Here, once you're on throttle, commit to that throttle. This next section, you want to move right. And this corner has seen a lot of accidents, and I think it's a corner that has robbed me a lot of lap time sometimes, just because you piece the whole lap together and now you're like, I just need to get through this, and next thing you know, you just blow it away. This, I'm definitely using the right hand side markers as a brake recommendation, but I'm gonna point right here. So on this map, again, this looks like this section, but it's way tighter. So see how this has more distance to it, this has more distance to it. This one is way narrow. So it's a tighter corner. Now, what I was doing initially, which you're gonna see on this video, is I was getting to this first apex, going all the way to the track out on the right, and then displacing the second corner. What some people told me was faster, and I think it has to do with how the track has evolved, is that I should enter a little bit later here. So square off the entry. So as you can see here, I'm getting to that apex, letting the car go all the way to the track out, and I'm looking for this runoff over here on the right hand side. What people are telling me is I need to go a little bit deeper here, miss this, that way I'm better squared up on the right hand side, and I can carry more speed on the way out. Now, the reason I think that works today is because, calm down, Felix. Yeah, so I think the reason that works today is because ECR ended up adding a patch of concrete asphalt here on the right hand side. So if I square up the entry, it gets me more parallel at the track out, or at the mid section. It gets me more parallel here. And then I can get to this inside apex and really bog out of there, really fly out of there, because I have all this extra room on the right. It's a really fun lap. Please, if you get a chance to go, it's an incredible facility. They keep on growing it, they keep on expanding it. The owners are super cool people. And that is the finish line. So there we have it. That's a lap at ECR. Okay guys, that's a lap at ECR. Let us know how you would approach taking turns at this track, and if you guys have any comments, leave them down below. We also have a playlist going of additional tracks around the country, so please go ahead and click on that here or here. We'll catch you guys in the next one.